Hello everyone and welcome back to House of Light, and I'm here with co-founder Adrian Wynter. Isn't it good to be back on live stream?
Well, yes, slightly nervous, but yeah, it's good.
It feels ages, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It feels ages. Yeah. So Adrian's coming on today to talk about his Learning Love retreat, which he's going to be co-hosting in May here at House of Light with Manjula Graziano. So I'm going to just double check that all the tech is aligned and the sound is working, and maybe you can tell us just a little bit about the retreat and what people can expect.
Great, yeah, okay. So it's a 5-day retreat. It's called Learning Love 1. It's the foundation of Learning Love. So we'll be looking at, very much looking at starting to pick apart our relationship with ourselves. And of course, our relationship with ourselves affects massively how we relate with others and how we relate in our working lives, in our relationship lives, in our parenting lives. But the foundation, the Learning Love 1, we'll really be looking at what beliefs we carry, what we got from our childhood in terms of how we experience ourselves. So as we grow, we look to the people around us to mirror back to us who we are and what we are and how we're welcomed. Are we welcome? And what our strengths are and how we should behave and how we should relate. And this leaves very deep imprints. And during this 5-day retreat, we get to start to explore that and get a deeper understanding for how that is for us each individually.
So it takes you back really to all that stuff that you learned that you didn't know that you were learning, that's become part of what your personality and your character, without even realizing that it's actually a conditioning and not the real you.
That's right. And often we get in touch with what we learnt in terms of beliefs and ways of being and protection mechanisms. We can access it from how we are today.
Yeah.
So what triggers us today, even during a retreat, where the beauty of a 5-day retreat is the participants come away from everyday life. So you're in a held environment where you're not triggered by your work schedule, your family, whatever it is. So you're not constantly being encouraged to go back into protection. This allows us to really open up and have a look. Yeah. But the thing I love about group work is often you put people with people, there will be little triggers.
Of course.
And then we can work with those, and because they're small, you can start to see that this is something I'm carrying.
Yes.
Because I might think it's my partner that makes me feel like this, but when I start to explore and go, okay, maybe I felt like this before this relationship, and sometimes it'll come up during a retreat, and then it's very useful because you start to see, okay.
Yeah. So you might come on the retreat thinking, oh, I'm really not good in relationships, but it's because of this. But you might actually discover that your lack of relationships is because of something else. So you're uncovering layers.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of times when somebody is longing to be in a relationship but can't get into a relationship, there will be patterns and protection mechanisms there that actually are keeping them safe from being in relationships. So they might feel like they want to be in intimate relating, but especially if they've had a difficult experience of that in the past, they will have their protection mechanisms like picking people that are unavailable or sabotaging the first conversation, or simply not engaging, staying in, not going out, not meeting people, or not turning up when not showing up to meet someone and to let them in, or sometimes meeting them, letting them in so far, and then as soon as the relationship actually starts to become close, they will have their unconscious pattern for it to finish. They'll suddenly decide this isn't the right person, or they will, cheat on the relationship and they didn't know why because they liked it, but there'll be ways in which somebody gets out.
And is this a retreat where people can come with absolutely no experience of like meditation or self-developmental work?
Absolutely.
So you could just literally say, right, I'm drawn to it, but I know nothing about nothing.
That's right. Yeah. You come along, we take you through what it is we're looking at, take you through guided meditations, experiential exercises, we do sharings. It's very held. There's nothing you need to know beforehand.
And what about, is it more couples or singles or a mix?
No, really a mix. Some retreats have more couples on, some more singles, but it's really either way. It can be interesting to come as a couple because you find out more about each other and about the dynamic between. Sometimes work can happen between the dynamic of a couple, and I've seen amazing things happen with that. But also coming alone is fascinating to find out. And people tend to be less inhibited when they come alone.
I was going to say, I mean, even if you're in like a committed relationship, it could probably be a bit daunting to open up in front of the other person in a way.
Sally, you don't have secrets from your life partner, do you?
Of course not.
Yeah.
We don't go there, Adrian, you know that. But that's obviously my trigger, and my thing is opening up in an environment where I could be judged or blame or something else could come up, especially in front of an audience.
Yeah.
But you and Manjula have so much experience in holding that space.
Yeah, it's not, and that's why sometimes it's lovely to come with as a couple, because often I've seen people open to a degree that they've never felt safe to do with their partner, and it can really be life-changing. So it's open to people coming on their own or as couples, any which way around.
Yeah.
So really this work is finding out about ourselves.
And it's not just like the romantic, intimate relationships, it's the relationships with family, with friends, with work.
With money.
With money as well.
With authority. I mean, we're going to be dealing with a lot of people at the moment who are struggling with what we've just been through in terms of our relationship to our own mortality, the fear of disease or fear of control. So there's lots to work with. Yeah.
And you're co-hosting the retreat with Manjula
right.
Graziano.
Yeah,
Tell us about how you met and how you started working together.
We've both been doing this work with Christian Amana, the couple that run it, for many, many years. And we met on the retreats. We've taught together. We've assisted together. We've done some of the trainings together. And it's just a delight to work with her. And it's working with Christian Amana. It's great that there's the male and female energies in the room, and it's lovely to work with Manjula because those two bases are covered. Yeah. Some people are more comfortable, if, for instance, in a deep sharing, if they're feeling vulnerable. Some people, it's easier for them to open with a man, or easier to open with a woman. So it's quite nice to have the two. I mean, I love teaching on my own, but I really love teaching with Manjula. Yeah. And
are you offering one-to-ones as well throughout the retreat?
Yeah.
Both of you are available for.
That's right. Yeah.
One-to-ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything else more you'd like to share about the retreat or the work?
Let's think. I thought we really kind of covered
actually.
it. So it's the 31st of May to the 4th of June.
To the 4th of June, yes. Yeah.
It's fully residential, so you come, the accommodation, the food's all taken care of, the place is there, there's everything you need. You can just come and relax and dive into the work. Yeah,
and be held in this gorgeous space.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a fairly full-on schedule. The days are long. There's plenty of time in between structures, in between sessions to relax and let what you're finding out and what you're feeling assimilate. But there's lots to it. The retreat, it's a full
It's deep.
5 day.
Yeah.
When I first went, it was life changing for me. It was a surprise.
That was the turning point.
It was a surprise. Yeah.
And there are 16 places here at House of Light.
Yeah, and a few are full already. So
few are full. Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So do reach out if you're interested. We'll put the information here in the comments, and it's also up on our websites on our retreat page.
And I know what I did want to talk about is it's interesting for me when I think about teaching this model, because a lot of how we are with the world, and therefore how the world mirrors back to us, is to do with our very early years. And I'm rereading material to prepare for the birth of our child, who's due any day now.
Of course,
Kerry's due to give birth. I really love the work of a guy called Michel Odent, and he talks about the importance of a woman giving birth being feeling really safe. And he advises a dark room with privacy. Nobody's talking to her. Nobody's bringing her back into her logical mind, because this takes away from the natural oxytocin rhythm. So, but reading about that, he's done an awful lot of study about how we are changing the evolution of humans by our birthing techniques.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he looks at it not on an individual, not on a what's the word where you take an individual case?
Single example.
Yeah, they use it as a certain evidence.
Yeah.
It's like a story. Oh, I know a story of this happening. He's saying that. Forget that. If you look at it on the level of civilization, we are changing how we are through our birthing techniques, and particularly through the use of artificial oxytocin. So oxytocin, which is the love drug, which a woman's body, both men and women produce it, but women produce a lot of it to go into labour. It creates the contractions. It's necessary to make the baby, to push the baby out. But it's also called a shy hormone, because like love itself, it only comes when the conditions are just right. And it's subtle, and it needs the woman to feel comfortable and safe, and it's the opposite of adrenaline. So when a woman goes into birth, you don't want adrenaline. You don't want her to have adrenaline, and you don't want the people in the room to have adrenaline. You don't want someone who's excited or nervous or worried, and they certainly don't want to be passing that on to her, because it stops the oxytocin flowing. If she's concerned that it's not safe in any way, the oxytocin stops, the labour stops.
Yes.
And he's pointing out that the bright lights of hospital, strangers coming in, asking the woman questions, when did your waters break, continually checking and telling her maybe how far she's dilated. Information like that, it brings her back into her thinking mind, which is not the mammalian mind that's giving birth. And it stops the oxytocin flowing. When the oxytocin doesn't flow, the labour stops, and you can end up with a much longer, more painful labour. So then they introduce synthetic oxytocin, but that doesn't create the love effect. It just creates the contractions. The problem with this is that when the baby's born, then that connection between mother and baby is also connected with the oxytocin. And when you give synthetic oxytocin, the body stops producing the natural oxytocin. So we are tampering with the connection that all newborns have. Not every newborn, but most births now are either cesarean or using false oxytocin. So it then disturbs this initial hours with mother and baby, where we have now, it's the common knowledge that skin-to-skin contact is good, and that we shouldn't separate the baby from the mother, which has been the case for thousands of years. In fact, it's not a modern thing, it's in civilization history. But it interests me to read, to look. His main thing about what a woman needs when she gives birth is safety, but safety in the subtleties of it needs to be like a dark space. She needs to be comfortable there. She needs to be warm, and critically, not to have people there who are going to talk to her, ask her questions, or appear to be observing. You don't want bright lights. You don't want strangers if possible. And he talks about the perfect midwife is someone who's had good birthing experiences herself and is quietly sitting in the corner doing something like knitting, crocheting, making herself a cup of tea, is not overly busy with the woman, lets her get on with it. Yeah. And I found it fascinating reading about this safety zone. Well, this will be our third time, and we've done this twice at home, and we've already read this before. I know this, but to rebrush up on it, I was like, it does connect for me with this work to an extent, because a lot of our adult lives are driven by fear. A lot of our motivation to not go for a job or to not get into a relationship or we act a lot out of fear, and we act out of fear because at times we didn't feel safe as children. And to pinpoint, to really concentrate on this very first moments of our new baby's life, as we did with Alma and with Sophie, it's just, it just touches me. It's like, that's the goal for this birth coming, is to create a really safe space so that Kerry's body goes naturally into, and there's a baby ejection reflex that the woman's body will go into, where at one point when the labour is happening, the woman goes into, she suddenly will go quite frightened or fearful, and they often say things like "kill me" or "I'm going to die," and it's a build up, and it's for the last few contractions that pushes the baby out. And again, at that point, you leave her to do her thing. You don't soothe her or tell her it's going to be all right or try to engage. You allow her the space, and the baby comes. And so there's creating this safe space for the birth, and then leaving her alone with the baby, giving or maybe not alone, but leaving space for her and the baby to connect with the oxytocin, with her natural oxytocin, without any drugs on board. Not, if they're needed, great, but I know with Kerry there won't be, so.
It's going to be a beautiful time.
Yeah.
It is, really is. I didn't know any of that at all. Yeah, well, I don't have children anyway, so to get an insight into like the birthing process and the approaches, it's really beautiful. And
it ties in with, because when we look into what affects us in our childhood, actually the earlier it happens, by far the bigger effect. The deep imprints are very early.
So I was going to say that the experience that the baby has gone through at birth is obviously carried within them.
Yes.
And that can still show up.
It's tremendously important.
Show up as trauma or behavioural.
Yeah, and it can shape a way somebody goes in life. If, for instance, the birth was a struggle, often somebody will carry that life is a struggle throughout.
Gosh.
Or if there's a drama during the birth, something happens, somebody else in the room has a heart attack, or I don't know. If there's something strong element, or for instance, if the mum's terrified of giving birth. Yeah. So my gran was very depressed in her last pregnancy because the previous children, she couldn't fully breastfeed. She couldn't produce enough milk to feed the children adequately without formula milk. And her husband was a doctor, and he'd done some of the research proving that breast milk's better than... And he was a bit of a fascist, to be honest, and he wouldn't allow formula in the house. So the aunties would have to smuggle it in. So when my mum was born, she was the first of 5. She, excuse me, she was struggling. She would have starved. But the aunties bought in formula. But consequently, her mum, by each pregnancy, she got more and more freaked out that when she gave birth, she wouldn't be able to feed the baby, and she wouldn't be supported by her husband in feeding with formula. Wow. So those babies were born into quite a traumatic because she wanted to give birth, but also she would have been totally freaked out and depressed.
Yes.
She was in bed for weeks of depression each pregnancy also. And this is part of the backstory that I found out. It's like that has a strong effect on somebody for life.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be born into a pattern or into a place. So I'm interested in how the birth goes, and to see, to keep it safe.
This little soul has chosen well.
God, I hope so. I don't know.
Oh, she has, because we don't know, do we?
We don't know. No,
it's going to be a surprise.
No, yeah.
I'm just going to say hello. We've got a couple of people. Oh, Jackie Pixie Rose is with us.
Ah, fantastic.
Hi, Jackie. And Iana as well. Welcome.
Hi, Iana.
If you've got any questions for Adrian regarding the Learning Love Retreat in May, then feel free to pop them into the comments. And if we miss it live, we'll come back to you afterwards and answer anything. Yeah. Anything that you'd like to know. But the doors are open.
The doors are open, yeah. And come and get involved. Come and participate. And
So all the details for Learning Love 1 are on the website, on the retreat page, with the pricing. There's also an early bird offer available to the 31st of March. So if you're getting quick, you get a lovely discount. But it really is it's such a heartfelt experience. It really is.
Yeah. Sally's thinking of coming on.
Maybe. Or I'll just be running and hiding in the office because I'm triggered. No, I really admire your work, and I love, the healing that you're sharing through it. So wonderful.
Thanks, Sally.
Okay.
Okay.
So, is that about it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. This video will go up onto our YouTube channel as well. And as always, reach out and just thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Lots of love.